Welcome back to Endangered Species Spotlight. Happy Canada Day. This week let's talk about something Canadian. Wolverines, or wrong picture. Wolverines, which apparently a lot of people don't actually know is a real animal, including Hugh Jackman after he got the role of Wolverine, apparently. He did not know that they were real animals until he was at a zoo and he saw wolverines, which I think is hilarious. So, wolverines are mostly Canadian. They do live in like Alaska and maybe Russia, I'm not sure actually. Yeah, so I just googled it. They do live throughout most of Canada, as well as Alaska, Russia, and down into some other states like Washington and Oregon, but largely in Canada, so that's why we're talking about them. Wolverines are a member of the weasel family. Even though they look more like hyenas or bears, they are a weasel, and they are the largest type of weasel species. Sorry, let me just, real quick right here. Sorry about that. So, wolverines have a very un-Canadian-like reputation. They're known for being very angry and very aggressive and will wreck your entire shit. There has been documented accounts of wolverines chasing grizzly bears and packs of wolves and cougars away from fresh kills so the wolverine could steal it. Like, even a grizzly won't go up against one of these guys. Honestly, respect. And I mean, with good reason. Like, look at those teeth. If you watched my honey badger video, this is basically the Canadian version of the honey badger. They're not the largest, but they are very angry, very aggressive, and they will fuck you up. They're not related to honey badgers, and they don't like eat honey or anything, but they're just in the same category of don't mess with it for the love of God. The current estimate of population, at least in Canada, is between 1,500 and 1,900 individuals, and the exact number is not well known, mostly because, thankfully, these guys are super shy and like to live in very remote places away from human activity, which is fortunate because, again, they will destroy you. But yeah, they like to live in the middle of nowhere, like super remote, so they're not often seen in person. They're super elusive, and barely anybody actually sees one of these in person, and if you do, you're either really lucky or really unlucky. So some of the main threats to these guys, obviously habitat loss. Since they like living in super remote locations, it's not as bad because nobody wants to live in the middle of fucking Nunavut. So habitat loss, but not as severe because, again, nobody wants to live there. But there's also other threats, like these guys. Thankfully, there's more regulations now, but these guys used to be trapped very heavily for the fur trade because they have super nice fur because they like living in cold places. There are more regulations, and the fur trade is not as extensive as it used to be, especially since like there are fur farms which function to breed animals specifically for fur, which is its own thing. But trapping is way less common than it used to be, and there are way more regulations. So these guys aren't under as much threat from the fur trade as they used to be. However, there are still other threats, such as like logging that depletes the forest where they live and disrupts the prey and everything, so logging is an issue, as well as highways through their territory, because while these guys may be able to chase off a cougar, they cannot exactly chase off a semi-truck. They're also not currently protected under the Endangered Species Act because they're not currently considered endangered. They are at risk or threatened, but they're not endangered as of right now. But there are certain groups that are working towards getting them an endangered and or protected status. So I will link to some of these efforts in the comments. But yeah, the angry Canadian murder weasel, the Wolverine.